Hey everyone.
Hey. Okay. All right. Hi, I'm Lauren Brick. The trick. I found the bishop lying dead in the snow. Main hall. Oh, you found him too, someone said. You saw him and didn't pick him up? I yelled. I just, I knew it was too late, and I didn't want to get blood all over me. They pointed at the bishop's body, which I instinctively turned over. Oh my God, his ass is gone, I murmured with horror. There was just a bit of bloody pulp left. He did it to himself. He ate it, my companion informed me. I began to shake with terror. Don't worry, though, they whispered in my ear. It's only a trick. Don't tell anybody. The bishop turned in my arms and winked at me.
Room. Some call my disorder an attention deficit. I prefer to label it a force field for what bores me. I forgo epiphany to attain abyss and cola. I buy to look less fat, more with the time, more overjoyed. My outside surprised me in the dressing room's mirror. Not only do I hate them, I'm aware that I hate them. My insides are worth nothing but their weight in spirit junk.
Whitney's party in D.C. I was at some outdoor gathering at night with a bunch of people I didn't know. Most of them were a little older than me, maybe 30-ish. They were all good friends, and I was having a mini anxiety attack because I didn't know how to act. Then this pretty blonde girl named Whitney got way excited about talking to me out of nowhere. She was almost hyper, she was so energetic. Although I was relieved I was in a social situation where I didn't have to do much of the talking, I got this creeping suspicion that she was actually making fun of me. Then her friends started geeking out over my funny old phone. I felt even more embarrassed. I decided I had to leave, and she asked if we could exchange numbers. I wish I could remember the weird things she said. On my way out, I sent her a text that just said, "Whitney," in all caps, for no reason. She texted me back an emoji of a face holding a dead whale upside down. I was disturbed not only due to this strange image, but because my phone was usually unable to receive emojis. I didn't really know how to feel. I jumped in my car and began to drive through this fake version of Washington, D.C. I was having a very hard time controlling the vehicle and couldn't figure out why. It was mostly deserted and nearly pitch black outside. There were no lights on the streets or in the buildings. I saw a black van and a black motorcycle driving down the road close behind me, but they were going much slower than they should have been. Suddenly, my car veered off to the left and raced up what I shortly realized was some sort of government building's marble steps. Terrified, I spun the car around and sped back down the steps. I began driving the wrong way down the road and spun aimlessly in an intersection. I realized this car was totally unmanageable, hopped out, and ran away. It drove off on its own. I was afraid of getting in trouble for all of this and ran off through a park with many winding paths. A few other people were running there in a strange slow motion with their arms out in front of them. They all had black capes on, but backwards and blown up in front of their faces. I got this terrible feeling as I watched them, and then my cape appeared and blew up in front of my face. I came to in this strange, cramped metro terminal. It was very hard to distinguish what stop I was at and what train I should look for. I couldn't understand any of the maps or the labels on each spherical pod train. I got into one, and it was so cramped for me, but didn't seem too cramped for anyone else. It wasn't even crowded. I turned to try to get out of the way and somehow whacked an old lady in the face. Her friend accosted me, and I ran out of the pod, falling over myself. The pod lifted up and went away. I decided I would take the next train and hope for the best. On the next pod, there were a bunch of young adults having a good time. The lights were off, but there were Goofy Spencer's Gifts party lights going. Somehow, I felt threatened as everyone acknowledged me coming in, even though they were being friendly. I thought I had to scare them off to survive, so I started making big, wide eyes at people. They left me alone but didn't seem all that scared. I noticed a guy who was growing vampire fangs in front of some girls as a party trick. I sat quietly as the pod smoothly spun up and around through the dark. I was about to fall asleep in my seat when I got a text message, but it wasn't from anybody, and it just said, Whitney.
This is sort of like a kind of starts off like a movie trailer parody. It's called Sword Heaven Extended Cut. In a world of men, one man stands apart from the herd, alone. One man, one sword, one vision of a chosen sword, unconformistly hacking its way through the crystal landscape. A blue-collar upbringing, a society that outlawed swords, a belabored prophecy, a sword forged from electric flame to slay the powers that would deblade one man's quest mysticism, truth, valiance, wit, unencumbereditude. And watch out, a woman, too, enters the commercial arena with the ancient knowledge, with the goal-oriented know-how, enabling her to physically articulate the man-made power of a different but also triumph-contributing sword-like blade of combat. This winter, get your sword on. From the makers of Sword Up, Bro, and the producers of Humble Brag Excalibur, and the writers of The New Complacency, comes an unlikely story about a man who tried to reason his way out of a system of systematic injustice and succeeded enrichingly via sword magic, while some other guy sat on his porch staring into a void, drinking 3 beers a night and entertaining a nagging aspect of his conscious mind, informing him he could be doing more with his comfort-laden existence. But what exactly is one to do but sit with the camera focused, freeze-framed on your aging face as the wind blows through your unintentional beard, contemplating your comeback, your chance to outman the competition in a struggle to be a man's man, in a struggle to be a man's man, in a struggle to be a man's man, 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 man.
Man. Hot dog hell. I was in line for a hot dog. I was under an overpass or in a big parking garage or something nondescript in cement like that. A dweeby-looking little kid got up in my face and asked, "Are you here to lose your virginity?" He giggled annoyingly. I had a feeling he didn't know what that meant, and instead of being a good sport about it, I was really grumpy. "I already lost my virginity," I said flatly as I held out my plate for a hot dog. God, I hate hot dogs, I thought to myself. I wasn't even hungry.
Update. I post a new update. Wow, I'll never be young again. I like my own status. Staring into the white space, I almost glimpse the moment that I Google natural painkillers while taking an awful bite from a Red Delicious. I leave it on the windowsill. Every day it dries more, browns more, withers, weakens, while I choose to never move it. Fill my grave not with my body, but with search terms never dreamed of.
Razor. Outside, at night, I retrieved an unusually large Razor cell phone from a mini fridge near a construction site. I struggled to type a text message on it. It read, "Hey y'all, it's Friday night. Want to sit around and talk about how we're not special?"
Evolver. A poet posts to Tumblr, receives 11 hits. She scans her laptop by starlight. The loneliest Pop-Tart. Drifts from its spaceship. Made 2 of universes. I slather my obelisk in black moonbeams. My face is a jagged edge crushed by comets. Speak to me, says Mother darkly, when the night is dead and dark. God says, dark enough for you? I say not dark enough.
Nun curse. Andrew and I were walking into an old building late at night. There was a vague sense that we weren't supposed to be there, but we figured no one was there, so we'd poke around. We went upstairs to the second floor. I knocked on the first door in the hallway, giggling, since there was no way there was going to be anyone there. I looked back at Andrew. He was grinning at me, but then his face fell, and I looked back at the door. A nun in a brown and white habit had opened it. She wordlessly coerced us to come into the large room with maybe a dozen or so other nuns. They were all in white. We weren't really sure what we should do, so we just stood there awkwardly and watched the nuns dance and sing in unison. None of them seemed to see us. My gaze fell on a nun at the end of a row in the far right corner of the room. She looked up and locked eyes with me. After a few moments, her dancing and singing stopped, and she stood there with slumped shoulders, staring at me. Her eyes seemed gigantic. She began making low, incomprehensible sounds and swaying back and forth, never taking her eyes off of me. She worked her way into terrifying convulsions and terrible spine-tingling shrieks. None of the nuns seemed to notice. I tore my eyes away for a moment to look at the nun in brown, but she just smiled back with the same benevolent look that had drawn us in the first place. I looked back to the convulsing nun, and she let out the most terrible, drawn-out scream, with her arms raised up into the air. Her clothes blew up forcefully, covering her face and revealing her naked body. I stared at her body. Something about it seemed strange. Slowly, I realized with a cold, creeping horror that it was definitely my body. She knew I recognized it as mine and started laughing hysterically from behind her clothes, still flapping upwards in a mysterious wind. I felt Andrew grab my arm and pull me away, out the door, down the stairs, out of the building. What happened in the next few days is hard to recall, but the curse that the nun had put on me tormented us both.
Still life with snacks and skull. I march through vast markets, trying to die less quickly by checking nutrition labels. Will this burn calories, or will it make my heart burst? Without wanting to see inside, I pry open the plastic bag, where a failure of orange cheese powder awaits me to destroy. The small chips lay always at the bag's salty bottom, thinking why me, shattered during the manufacturing process.
Cop boob. So fun to say. After all that crazy action, like tearing through the sheets of wood with saws tied to her feet, it seemed to be coming to an end. Most of us were out in the hallway. A black man drove the school bus up to the end of the hallway and struggled to get it to turn the 90-degree corner. He peeked around the bend from the driver's seat, waving a big neon yellow ladder. We all waved at him, telling him it was okay, we already had one. He nodded and gave a thumbs up. A big, tall lady cop escorted us all down the hallway from the room where the crazy saw acrobatics battle was wrapping up. I was glad to be out of it. The cop wasn't a negative figure in this situation, and we somehow weren't in trouble. She was joking around with us, and when I said something sarcastic, she playfully slapped me in the face with her boob. We all laughed, and I said, "Shucks, I thought you were going to get me with your left one."
ICP. This isn't autobiographical. I exist out of royal farms, in pants that sail wide and torrid, adorned with hanging chains. My makeup's white and black. It is the peace and the restless violence, inherent in all aspects of hatchet-carved reality. You see, for every binge, there is an equal hangover. And for every guitar riff, too exists a hip-hop backbeat. Kittens of the night, draw close to me. I am Tao with the clown.
Pancake lover. A man was playfully wriggling on top of me, tickling me, and I was laughing really hard. He was wearing a large, realistic costume of a sack of pancakes with butter on it. "Aw," I yelled, lovingly wrapping my arms around his neck. You remembered I like pancakes.
Guts. If I turn myself inside out, you'll sicken at the sight of me. Inside me, it's just cash guts and fat rolls of coin. My name's George, as I gaze into each Frito transaction through an Illuminati eye. Call me Abraham, glomming down coppered footlongs. I am Sacagawea, investing in purple Skittles, exchanging my reality for a 12th-hour Xbox binge. Monster Energy still my heart. I am all that is evil.
What's the deal with Glove? Jerry Seinfeld and Julia Louis-Dreyfus lay on a carpeted floor, slowly writhing around. They weren't in pain, but seemed kind of dazed. A black leather glove was on the floor between them. They were slowly pawing at the glove, deeply groaning, "Glove, glove."
What's the deal with love? Burning Man.
You have to do it now.
Just the first. Or
you don't have to.
I'm gonna do it. Sorry. I noted in my iCal. Thursday, 9 to 10 a.m. Remember to not burn yourself. But when the reminder dropped, it said, "Fire is forever." Some poems remind us of good's enduring force, but this is not that poem. I stack liquor on graveyard to inter my pain of language. I apply my education and calculate my lone blaze. I try to be a better man. Reality holds me back.
This is an excerpt from one called Collapse. Growing ever frustrated with the days passing without any sense of continuity between them, I found myself in an argument with someone about it. I was convinced I was hopping between alternate universes each day. "Tell me this," I said, posturing myself into some kind of authoritative stance and tone. "Did Aaliyah die in a plane crash?" The person immediately scoffed, as though what I was saying was absolutely insane. "Well," I said, arms folded. The person rolled their eyes. "Of course not. Everyone knows she's in physical therapy adjusting to her change." "What change?" "How can you not know this? She became a cello-playing Leslie, and now she's in that fancy rehab resort in Costa Rica getting used to her new shape. Duh. The Aaliyah of that universe flashed into my mind. She had become a terrifying combination of a human and a walrus, which was called a Leslie. She sat next to a smiling physical therapist in a shallow part of an indoor pool. She was possibly smiling, it was hard to tell with that horrendous face, and holding a small cello half submerged in the water. She's a brave woman for going through all that for her beliefs, my argument partner said aggressively. I stood in shock, wishing I had never seen a Leslie.
Sweatpants. If I had 6 days left to live, I'd live them wearing sweatpants. Alone and with television. I'd soak up all the Frasier I'd missed out on growing up. Jack Daniels, Bo, chicken tenders, my pallbearers to the end. I forgive the world as the sky dark browns on the window's unknown side. Do you know me, Lord? Have you listened to my silence? I'm so alone, it's beautiful. Unknown, unloved, unreal, but real. You're out? Okay.
Well, you don't have to be out, though. You can keep going.
I mean, I'm done.